All right, hello ABL and fans of the ABL. I am Alan of the Rockies with Armchair Updates, and we have one of our newer owners. We have Zach of the Brewers. Zach, thank you for what is it about 11:30 for you in the middle of the week?
12:30, 12:30.
12:30. Yeah, you're East Coast guy. So thanks for taking some time out of the middle of the day, middle of the week to do some ABL potting. First, how are you doing this morning? And show everybody what you're wearing.
So one of my thousands of Pirates shirts, jerseys, or jerseys, and I was telling before the pod we've got I have two fits of the
There he is.
piece rotation. I know Adam will be happy about that. In my current repertoire here with Tyon and Cole. So,
yeah, Pirates fan, but run the ABL Brewers. Yeah, I mean, right. you obviously didn't get to pick. You know, you weren't one of the first guys, but you're still on the central.
I know. I was brought into the league from Tommy and Jordan, who run the Nationals, and because from another long-going fantasy league that we've been in, right. And they because Tommy actually went to high school with me. He's a couple years older than me, but we went to the same high school. And he told me about the league, and I was interested when I believe it was for Josh with the Giants was maybe just a week or two before opened up, maybe just a week or two before the Brewers. And I was interested and went to Josh, and then the Brewers just came up right after. I'm like, oh, it's got to be the Brewers. Like I don't, I don't hate them compared to the other NL Central teams, but there was a time whenever we all hated Ryan Braun as Pirates fans, and Carlos Gomez started a huge fight with Travis Snyder, and it was like
yes, I forgot about that. Yes, you did. Man, and then once I got into this morning that I haven't thought about in a while. I love that.
Oh yeah, but then once I got in the league, and I'm like, crap. And then Duke with the Pirates and Jeff with the Cardinals. Like, what in the world did I get myself into? But yeah. So thanks for having me on. I'm happy to be here and to chat. I always love chatting baseball and fantasy baseball, and happy to be into it full time. It's a wonderful, amazing league. And I will say, real quick for the card fans out there, I think I told you this in the baseball card chat, but it's kind of fitting for the 2022 opening day set that came out a couple weeks ago that I pulled this card.
Yeah, there he is.
Bernie Brewer's mascot, a relic worn by the Bernie Brewer that I had.
Anybody that doesn't prove that thread, Zach did pretty randomly pull the mascot's jersey card of the team that he happens to run in this particular league. Obviously, like he just is not the only league he's in, but how apropos that in the league with the Discord that has a lot of card heavy guys. You managed to pull right before the season starts, right before we do the pod, really. You managed to pull the game used
or whatever in the heck it is. I mean,
you notice the picture on the card. He's wearing the blue, the dark color, but the swatch on the card is actually the white. So is maybe that pants or?
It could be, or maybe, I don't know if they have different things, but there is a little blue,
blue. Oh, there is, yeah, there is like a
something there, but I don't. So, but it's pretty cool. Always fun to do that kind of stuff. So, I was actually sorting. I got some of my opening day and Heritage Pirates cards in, so I got a crap ton on my bed right now. But nice. I won't. That's for another pod for another day too. So,
yeah, right. So like I said, Zach is one of the newer owners, like if you want to be technical, but you have been around since about halfway through year one, I would say, right? Do you remember about when you came around? Was it like June, late June?
I think it was early June, if I remember, because I know Josh and I were talking about who got in first, but it was really close together somewhere beginning.
Yeah, you guys were like right there because we had we were realizing that we had a couple of teams that seemed more or less dead, and yeah, Rob, guys, total sidetrack, but Rob ended up trying to join a 30-team hockey league that myself and Tony and Cleveland Mark were all in.
I'm in too.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're in that. Yeah, you're in that.
I'm still in it.
Yes, yeah, you guys are still in it. I didn't make opening day. I didn't make puck trophy because I got in a giant fight with the commissioner, and yeah, but that guy ended up trying to join that league. He's like, now suddenly I have time for a 30-team hockey league or a 30-team fantasy league, whatever, because he was using time as his excuse as to why he dropped out on the Brewers, when in reality and this is kind of leading into what I wanted to get, when in reality, he had not drafted a very smart team. What were your thoughts when you looked at the Brewers? I mean, I'm sure you got to look at the team before you decided whether or not you wanted to take it. Like, what were your initial thoughts on the Brewers?
So I looked at it, and the main thing, at least at the time, he had made a couple moves. From what I don't remember exactly what they were, but I think he had a Aroldis Chapman that he dealt, if I'm not mistaken, at some point, and he had made a couple of moves early in the year. It was a team that had some decent guys on it, and as we all know, depth is so incredibly important in this league, and there was none of that, and that, but that's tough in a 30-team league at the beginning. But what really hamstrung probably a lot of the decision making there was that he put so much money, and this is what we've talked a lot. There's been a lot of discussion about this. He put so much money in the auction into Kelnick and Julio Rodriguez that it really it ended up likely affecting the rest of the team, and a lot of people didn't know that yet. Like, maybe if things would have been done all over again, and there would have been maybe a minor league draft before the actual the league started, maybe that wouldn't have happened. But at the same time, it's, hey, free market. Who's going to get it? And
he was going stars and scrubs, but his stars weren't stars yet. That's the thing. Like, he was going guys I hope that are going to be stars and scrubs, and then all of the scrubs were the major league depth and everything, and that's why he was in the position that he was in before he dropped out.
Yeah,
but that didn't like hinder your desire to take the team over.
No, it was a team that, I mean, they hadn't won very many games, and I knew going into it that I more than likely, like, that wasn't going to be a playoff team. I had actually was able to. I won a few games once I took it over. I was able to keep it, from immediately heading out.
It didn't just nosedive.
I was trying to stay competitive, and I didn't make many moves right away. I knew, and what I'll say, and what a lot of people probably have seen or known, is that I'm not a big wheeler dealer in general, just to make moves. I mean, some people are like that. I don't like to tinker, I guess. I have, like, my guys. I get my guys for a reason, or I like to be patient as much as possible. But the other league I was in with Tommy and Jordan last year, I usually make the playoffs every year, and I was dead by the end of April, just the way my team was constructed. So I sold, and I got amazing prospects, and I got $57 extra in auction cash, and now I'm in, like, just our keepers for that league were due yesterday, and I was keeping $45 worth of people, and I was able to swap guys to get Betts and Darvish, who are going to get dropped. So now I have two really good guys. But so I'm happy to deal in the right scenario, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I'm not tinker here, tinker there. I'll sell if I need to sell. I'll buy if I need to buy, but I'm not going to be constantly messing with my roster. So I wanted to take some time once I got it to really say, okay, I obviously know all these players, but how's this team look? How is it constructed? How are other teams constructed? Because I've never been in a 30-team league before. I've been in a couple 16-team leagues, which are big, but nothing compared to this.
Yeah, that's it.
And I knew that the most tradable guy I had was Altuve. So I knew that was the most sellable asset I had. So I waited a little bit. I waited a few weeks, waited a month or so before kind of opening up shop, and then I made some deals. The biggest was Altuve went to the Dodgers and Joe, and I was able to get Liover Peguero back and Cole Winn, both guys who are pretty highly rated. And it's hard when seeing some of the other deals in this league. It really does mimic a lot of baseball, because you feel like, 20 years ago you would trade, someone's 6th or 7th best player, and you might get a top 100 prospect back, and you can't even get close to that anymore. Like, you're lucky to sell an amazing guy and get a top 100 prospect back in any deal in the big leagues, let alone now in the league
contracts and everything. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, and these guys that switch hands, I know, like Orioles Steve was saying earlier, like, every time I go in and look for, like, a fringy guy that I think might have some upside, 90% of the time he's already on somebody's team. And that is a good that encapsulates this league very well. It's like, man, even guys that you never would have thought of in a 16 teamer, and you might be drafting 400, 500, 600 deep in some of those with deeper rosters, and you're still not scratching the surface of what we got going on here. We're reaching down into single A for guys that might be relevant in triple A in a couple few years, and maybe they turn into a trade chip or something. Yeah. The depth
That's
here.
why it's so great. I mean, it's so detailed. It's so in depth. We're obviously not going to be major league general managers, but it's the closest you're ever going to get to something like that, I feel like. And to really get immersed in that has just been pretty amazing and a whole heck of a lot of fun. And it's, if anything, I'd be like, hey, let's go to 25 or 30 minor leaguers. But let's maybe we might need to slow the roll there a little bit. But
little suggestion thread, yeah, maybe.
But no, it's been, I think it's great, and it's been a heck of a lot of fun so far.
So your other moves, you did make that Altuve move, reasonably early on into your Brewers tenure, but the bigger ones, at least the more notable ones for me, you kind of waited, like you said, you don't tinker a lot, and it's not like, if anybody's, I think most guys, probably on the Discord have talked to you one form or another. It's not like anybody's knocking on your door and saying, no, I don't want to trade. I don't like trading, but you're not much of a tinkerer like the Cubs, like the Marlins, like these teams that made 200 plus trades in year one. But you did make a couple sizable ones to start off your first offseason. I think this was October that you acquired both, not in the same deal, but Nolan Arenado for a round 4 pick. I believe it was from the Cardinals. They were going to cut him and said, hey, if anybody wants to give me anything for him, I'll take it. And you went out and grabbed Nolan Arenado. And then the bigger deal, you grabbed Bryce Harper from, was it the Rangers?
Rangers and Sam.
For Pavin Smith, Bailey Ober, who is, there's guys in this league that love Bailey Ober. There's guys everywhere that love Bailey Ober.
I know you guys talked about Ober with Steve.
Steve, the last very highly esteemed.
He's already been flipped since then.
Since then already been flipped. Yeah. And then a round 1 pick, I believe it was a 2023 Brewers first rounder, and you bring back, a premier, probable 600 plus points in this format, bat and Bryce Harper. So you kind of didn't tinker a lot with your team during the season. You kind of got the lay of the land. It looked like you saw that, like you said, it probably wasn't going to be a playoff team, the Brewers, looking at the division you were in and everything. You didn't sit back. You dealt Altuve, made a couple moves, but then when that offseason hit, that's when you put the foot on the gas a little bit and went and got 2 monster bats. So were those – I know you're a Harper guy, right? Like I think you said before, you're a pretty big Harper guy?
I like Harper. It's more – well, I guess I did tinker a little bit more once I realized about the consolation, because I guess I should say too that I made a couple minor things leading up to thinking, hey, I have a chance at this consolation tournament, and I actually won it.
Yeah,
because I just essentially was able to play people every day, and not everybody was able to do that. And
I
thought there was some, I recommend people try to do that going forward too.
So it was actually funny. Anything from this pod, everybody, if you take anything from Zach's knowledge of the game, what you want to do is have guys that are actually going to play in your lineup. I didn't think about that. Because I had injury, and then I didn't have anybody to back them up. So yeah, if we learn anything from the Brewers today, it's have good players maybe, and then have players that are actually going to play. And I think we can just call it. I think that's 15 minutes solid, and
we're all good. See you next time. No. And then, so that means let's not talk about my roster construction after the fact, because that might go.
Right.
But
no, go ahead, man. Sorry.
No.
I was going to get into the console shit, and then I realized, I started with the offseason. I didn't even talk about the guy in the console bracket. So take us through that.
But a lot of those moves too were strictly just to gear for that, knowing that sure, there wasn't going to be a lot of guys who might be kept or anything like that, but just trying to help me get through that to try to go for it. So I know I don't even remember what they were now, but I know I made a couple more moves. I think I traded Chad Cole back and forth a few times. I think with Tony, I think I traded
you did
Cole to Tony, and then I got him back, and then I might even trade him back again because he ended up not playing. But I was just in that moment, if you feel like you're out of, I guess what I would recommend to people is that if you feel like you're out of the playoff race, but you might have a chance to make a run in the consolation, if you can get people without sacrificing your future, because you don't want to sacrifice your future to just try to win a consolation tournament. But by all means, you can probably tinker a little bit, make a few moves, and set yourself up to at least make a couple bucks. Again, your goal shouldn't be to win that tournament. Your goal should be to make the playoffs. But things happen over the course of the season, and if you're toast, at least it gives you something to play for. So that's at least one thing.
That's a great part of the payouts. This of ABL, you get paid per win. There's consolation money, and even if you don't win the entire bracket, you get paid per win in the bracket. If you can make the playoffs, you get paid for the playoff wins. And so there's a lot of different ways to maybe not profit, but put a little bit of money back in your pocket and not come away. Like, nobody's coming away from this with a zero. I guess Cleveland Mark tried.
Sorry, Mark.
He tried to come out of it with a zero. He tried to do the impossible in year one and not make any money back.
I think Mark's going to make a lot more money back next year. I think so
too. That was a kind of and really almost. I mean, there's a lot of things about year one that was a unique set of circumstances, up to and including kind of being able to do what you were kind of talking about and see that, okay, once I know I'm going to go for and maybe make a run at the console bracket, you can make a few smaller moves to kind of gear up for that. Probably a lot easier in this first year where there were no contracts, nothing like that to worry about. That as we go forward, that strategy is probably going to be still useful, but will have to be tinkered with a little bit. You're not going to have the same pool of players available to you that aren't tied down with a contract or.
That's a great point.
Whatever. So, yeah, you did take a team that was a dead owner team, give or take a good chunk into the season. Like you said, early June, mid June, whenever it was. I was trying to find that Altuve transaction.
I feel like that was sometime in July. It wasn't like right at the deadline, but I think it was pretty close. Because I knew I needed to take a little bit of time, and I think Josh did too. Josh and I joined about the same amount of time, and I think we both knew because but Josh had some of the big guns. He had Tatis and Soto, maybe.
Tatis and Soto, yeah.
So
Altuve was June 12th. Was when the Altuve to the Dodgers deal happened.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, Saturday, June 12th, 9:28 p.m. That's probably 9:28 my time, so maybe 11:30 at night. You were talking to Joe and decided on the Altuve. So really, right in the middle, you probably came around a couple weeks before that. So probably about the beginning of June, and then made that deal. Made a couple of deals a couple deals with the Marlins. Yeah, like you said, let's see, you acquired Colby Allard at the beginning of August. You traded Brian Anderson for some fab money. Mm-hmm. Got Chad Cole back from the Marlins. No, traded him back to the Marlins. I think you guys did that 3 times.
And I love Chad Cole, who's now a Rocky. I also have a cool Pirates jersey. That was the discussion we were having of jerseys I have. I have a cool Pirates jersey that I got before the last season. I know, not.
Yeah, you and the Marlins, you guys made a lot of those smaller deals. You came around. Tony must have taken a shine to you because he seemed to like dealing with. You made the
Tony's great to deal with.
deal, the Nick Whitgren deal, the Chad Cole deal. Yeah, kind of. Good relationship with the Marlins. You guys had made a little bit of a bigger – oh, no, that was July 31st. That was another Chad Cole deal with Victor Robles and Kyler Freeland going to you for Luis Garcia, the shortstop, Christian Roa, who is now a Rocky, and a round 4 pick. And then
that might have actually been my most important major league deal that's going to affect me this year is that one, because and we can talk more about that too. But I mean, Freeland is who he is. He's in Colorado. He's not a big strikeout guy, so you always have to worry theoretically about a huge blow up. He was a top 5 Cy Young guy a couple years ago too, which is
Yes,
hard
he
to
was, but, like, inexplicably. Yeah,
yeah.
he had one of those years where it all went right for him.
But I feel like he's kind of settled in as a middle of the rotation in Colorado. Yes, he might all of a sudden have a 5.55 ERA this year or any year, thinking that could happen. But he's got the pedigree. He's a top 10
ball
pick
every fifth day, though. Yeah, he's going to take it and probably eat up some innings. They're gonna lean on him to eat up some innings because that bullpen is terrible.
Oh, exactly, yeah. But his contract was so small that I felt like, once and especially all the research went out and everyone was talking about it, and it's perfectly true. You need starters. You need starting pitching. And he's been relatively healthy throughout his career too. I'm like, I can keep this guy for a couple of years at under $10 a pop.
Hey, what is he, $2 or $4 now?
He's 4 this year, and I signed him for 3 years. I didn't want to go too far with him because who the heck knows, especially in Colorado. But he could also get dealt at some point. Although now that the Rockies signed Bryant, who the heck knows what they're trying to do?
I don't even think they know.
But I was like, yeah, now I have him for the next 3 years, $4, $6, and $8, where that's not a big. He's probably going to be. The Rockies are going to need him to start. And
yeah, I think he's solid as a. I mean, he's going to be a low teens, maybe 12, 13 point per game kind of guy. Will settle right in. He's like that, kind of like a Brad Keller, like crappy team, but will eat innings when healthy. Hasn't had big arm trouble in the past or anything, and has shown flashes of being able to, on any given week, depending on who he's playing with, he might settle in and throw you a 20-point game or so, a high teens, low 20-point game. He can do it. We've seen it from him. So that is kind of an under the radar kind of deal that allowed you some financial flexibility, with having a good starter that you can rely on for that cheap. But
yes, that was probably my most important. The prospect deal for Altuve was going to be more important down the road, but as far as major league keepers, that was a big one for me before getting into the offseason stuff. But yeah, that was, and that helped me down the stretch too to help keep me to have starters for the consolation.
Absolutely. I don't want to miss anything else that you did. Yeah, you really. I mean. To say that you didn't tinker much, I mean, really, if you take out the deals with the Marlins, you didn't make a whole lot of deals at all, really. So it might it may surprise people
that salary was tied in
coming in. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like Josh at least had Soto and Tatis where he could get some big returns for that, and I'm sitting there going, "What was all this money spent on?" and not only. And not only that, I do have Asa Lacy as $9. That's not cheap for a prospect either. And that could become a reckoning at some point, especially because he hasn't been all that great yet. He still has a good pedigree, and he's probably he'll make the big leagues, but that's going to be a lot harder to make that decision at $9, $11 to keep him, depending on whenever he debuts. So
depending on what he shows, yeah, but you won't have to make that decision. When he first comes up, you won't have to make that decision. So I love. I know I've said this before, but I love how Duke did that. That seems so smart to me that when the guy debuts, that's year 0 or whatever. You don't have to then at the end of that season make a determination on if you're going to sign him yet. Like these guys that come for a cup of coffee in September or whatever, and now all of a sudden in the ABL, they're major leaguers. They lose that prospect status as soon as they take a plate appearance or throw a pitch. But good foresight on Duke's part, our founding father, that you don't have to immediately make that decision on, wow, okay, Mackenzie Gore came up and threw 2 pitches. Do I have to sign him now? That would not be a fun decision to make. I mean, it's already not with some of these guys, but that would just make it so much tougher.
Oh yeah. And that's and that kind of leads up into the off season, which I know I apologize. I kind of sidetracked the conversation because you probably asked me that 15 minutes ago.
It's all about you, team, man. This is great. It's good stuff.
But it was tough because the three big decisions I probably had to make before the auction started were the biggest one I really had to make in total was what to do with Kelnick, because he was $35. To keep him would have been $37. And there was a lot of discussion throughout the year on Discord, especially that I didn't even start about what to do about him and what to do with him, because he was such a he's such was a more unique player, where he obviously had a lot of eyes on him. He was a top 10, top 15 unanimous universal prospect across all the lists. He debuted and he stunk. Right away, he stunk. And then he got sent back down and he raked again, and he called back up again, and then he stunk. But they kept with him, and he showed flashes. And that is the trickiest thing. And that is probably the 1 year anomaly. Also, another 1 year anomaly, because of the prospects being in that initial auction, is that those guys are going to have, and there's a couple other guys out there too, like Gore and Torkelson, who had elevated salaries. But if Kelnick was 15 even, I probably would have said, I'm keeping him.
You can roll the dice on that. Yeah, you can pretty comfortably roll the dice on that.
And I was really planning on it. I was like, it was probably like, and look what he ended up going for. This is what we always, he ended up going for what, 29, 30, something like that. And I was bidding on him. With how little, I mean, the thing is, he still has a wealth of potential. He's likely going to be very good still, maybe as soon as this year. But to be able to keep him on my team for $37, I was like, at least at the time, like, I had
around him, you almost having to make him the centerpiece and then work around that, and that's what got Rob into that position that he was in the first place. Was trying to do that with him and J-Rod, which he proved that's not going to work. And then you came in and we showed, or you showed that simply by having an owner that is around and active and paying attention, the Brewers start winning games, and then, like we said, go on to win the console bracket. So this was not a lousy team. This wasn't the Orioles, the ABL Orioles, that Steve took over, that really wasn't very attractive. I think I don't know that you got enough credit as a guy that came in the middle of the year to a team that you didn't get to. It's not like we gave you a list of here's 3 teams that are open. Take the one that you want. You took what you were offered, and turned it into a not a champion or anything, but a consolation bracket champion, which is not nothing. It's like you won the NIT or something. It's something. You still make Sports Center for that, right?
Oh, well, yeah, you could be at like a 35, 45 minute,
shit. I think it's something, shit. It's what I said it many times. Would I have rather, I wanted to make the playoffs, and I wanted to say I made the playoffs, but you know what? The Rockies made the playoffs, got the shit kicked out of them in the first round, and then I was sitting on my hands the rest of the way while you were busy playing, while everybody else in these things were busy playing, and I was just, kind of, wait till next year, wait till the off season.
I will say, like, it was kind of fun to maneuver through the constellation, but I will say I think it was a good decision by the executive committee to potentially at least lower the amount that you can win by winning the constellation, and raise the benefits of trying to get to the playoffs. I think that is the right call in order to do that.
Going forward, we want to kind of nip that early on and say, well, maybe it's a little too much. You see guys taking their foot off the gas a little bit if it looks like they're not going to be in the playoffs, and year one anomaly. We were full of them this first year.
And I figured even before the announcements were made or decisions were made for rosters, I knew that the Pirates and Cardinals are going to be hard to compete with. But I felt like that if I made certain moves, I can at least put myself. I liked my farm system. I do like my farm system. That I needed to make moves to not. I probably wasn't going to cement my place in the playoffs or anything, but I needed to make some kind of moves to be a playoff competitor. And that was really what spurred the moves, specifically for Harper, once he Sam made him available. And because I didn't want to mortgage the future in any way, but it sounded like Harper wasn't going to. Harper wasn't in Sam's plans at the time. So,
Right.
and I liked Ober. Pavin Smith is certainly the Diamondbacks are going to give him a chance. But
I hope so. He's on my team now.
Yeah.
I hope so.
And he's right now he's got good positional flexibility too.
He's all over the place. Weirdly,
I didn't realize I forgot about the whole center field thing too, which helps.
Yeah.
But that was who Sam wanted, and I felt like I needed some guys who were going to. I didn't want to do necessarily stars and scrubs, but I needed to get some more talent on that team. And especially I was like, Harper might go for like 70, 75 in the auction. Now looking at what ended up happening, I think that wouldn't have been the case, but I ended up getting.
I was right there with you though. I still thought we were going to see the guys going up in that stratospheric type of money range, but it kind of pulled back a little bit. We still had the expensive guys, but I was right there with you on that.
Yeah, so I felt like I was like, you know what? This is the right time. It's the right player. I need to be able to if I want to compete for the playoffs, I'm going to be playing a lot of the Cardinals and a lot of the Pirates. And also at that point, Lenny had been making a ton of moves with the Reds too.
Yeah.
And the Cubs were obviously they were last year. I mean, and we'll talk about that maybe a little bit here or another time, but I knew this is going to be a loaded division. If I don't want to just sit and wait for my prospects, I've got to do something that's not going to kill me long term, but add some talent. So that's why I gave Smith and Ober to, and that was kind of, I didn't really know what the Twins were going to do with Ober and their pitching staff, but I figured, you know what,
I remember this was still back in last October. Like Ober's
right.
got a lot of helium now, and I guess he probably did but this was this move particularly that you're talking about. This was early mid-October of last year, I think. I don't remember the exact date, but yeah, I know it was October. It's pretty early in the off season.
Somewhere around there. So I was like, and Sam, I did give him my first round pick for next year, but he gave me his second round pick in that deal too. So I at least got another. So I have my second rounder, his second rounder, and my third rounder because I dealt my fourth, as you said, 2 for Arenado. Because that was the kind of move that I thought, that would really help a lot.
She's not taking my money this time. Yeah.
So I felt like I needed, and that just helped complement the team more too with Arenado. And honestly, he might have gone for a little bit less in the auction too, because I think he's at 43 for this. He's pretty high up there with the salary also. But I didn't sign him long term. I only signed him for 1 year. But I felt like for a 4th round pick, I like my system. I'm going to be looking for guys throughout the year if I have an open spot in the minors to fill in if need be. I felt like it was worth a 4th round pick to get Arenado to add another high point guy to my lineup. So that's where
it's interesting, man, because you look at how third base shook out in the auction, and what I think specifically about is that neighborhood of Bohm and Biggio and Moncada. And everybody kind of seemed to be. Wait, no, Moncada wasn't in the auction. Wait, was he? I don't remember, man.
He might have been. Yeah, I don't remember for sure. I have to go back and check.
No, he's a Blue Jay. Wait, did Gary? Yeah, maybe Gary did auction him this year for like 24, maybe give or take.
That sounds about. I felt like
Gary about trying to acquire him. Yeah, I think he was. Yeah. So you had those 3 guys. Bohm went for 20. Biggio went for 20. Moncada went for 22 or 24. If you throw Arenado in there and say they're all on the board at the same time, that could have gotten very interesting because that's why Bohm and Biggio kept getting pushed up because one guy would try to go for Bohm. He'd get yellowed. He'd go to Biggio. He'd get yellowed. He'd go back to Bohm. Bohm would flip, and then, whatever. Like those 2 guys, because I was in on both of them. I ended up winning Biggio, but I was in on both of them. And those were the 2 guys I was watching on the board a lot. Bam, yellow, flip, yellow. If you throw another of the higher tier third basemen in there like Arenado, maybe he doesn't go for 40 plus, but he's probably not going in the low 20s either. So
No,
I think taking the
right.
security of knowing that you have him and that he's not going to auction, keeping him away from a potential rival, and only having to give up a 4th-round pick. I quite like the deal. I didn't have the money to do it myself. I wish I did. When Jeff came out and said, I'll take anything for him. I'll take a 4th-rounder for him. I wish I could have done it. But
I saw that and I'm like,
yeah, I had too many roster spaces and not enough money. I just couldn't do it.
I knew that if I sat on my hands with that one, I felt like someone else was going to do it, because it's the kind of thing where sometimes you like and you need to have a lot of money in the auction. And sometimes you feel like, it might be nice to get somebody to, let's see if that would be I don't want to have that person go to auction or have to try to battle for that guy, especially with knowing what weaknesses you have, what you want to do for your team. And I felt, the salaries may be a bit high, but at least for a year, I'm going to go for it. Arenado, he didn't hit as well, obviously, in St. Louis as he did in Colorado. He might be more like that guy, but he's still going to get a lot of points for me.
He's still Arenado, yeah. He's still Arenado, and you know what you're paying. I think there's the peace of mind of that security of knowing you have him wrapped up, knowing that he wasn't under contract yet. You were the one that was going to get to decide, how long you had him at that inflated price for, or what looks like an inflated price. Yeah, I like that move. And then when you combine that with getting the other big bats, and you combine it with getting Harper, that really was the Brewer off season for the most part. Like Arenado and Harper were the two, which for anybody that's going to be two big acquisitions. But for a team that doesn't trade a ton, that was a couple of big ones. Couple big bats.
And that's whenever I made those, I'm like, I 100% had to drop Kelenic at that point. I hadn't done it. Sure. I may have still kept him and gambled, because I had even told people in Discord, like, right now my plan is to keep him, because I didn't have a lot to keep. I would have had a lot more money in the auction, and I felt, well, maybe it only takes one person to bid you up. Someone obviously bid Kelenic up to 30.
One other guy to really want him.
Yeah. And he got the 30 anyway. I wouldn't have even got him for that much of a discount had I gone there. So I felt I had to build. If I was going to get Harper for close to 50, around 50, I couldn't justify keeping Kelenic and maybe take a shot at getting him in the auction. And I didn't end up doing that. But what that did was that I ended up keeping a whole heck of a lot of guys, and I ended up having about $55 to spend in the auction. So I didn't have a whole lot because that's my roster from the end of last year.
Yeah, this is the Conso winning roster here. This is the end of last year's roster. There's $37 Cal, and that's like outside Victor Robles, that's the one double-digit price guy in the lineup, like for the bats.
And Robles was demoted by the end of the year. Robles was demoted. Wisdom was hurt at the end of last year, and I mean he won me some weeks too by himself.
Yeah, with those monster home runs that he was putting up for that short spell there.
I don't trust Wisdom as far as I could throw him, but I had to keep him for another year. Just
in this league for sure. You have to. Nice pitching though. I do like. Well, it's not the exact same as it is now, but at the end of the year here, I really like the Urias, Ober, Mize, Freelands, even Colby Allard, was not awful. He actually kind of was, but he still got you 120 innings, of serviceable ball in the ABL, and then mixing it in with some half decent relievers as well. I actually auctioned or fabbed Stefan this year, so he's going to be a Rocky. I like him as a Holtz guy. This was your console clinching team here.
Woohoo!
It doesn't jump off the page, but it was good enough to get it done.
For the constellation, you might not need a whole heck of a lot, but it's
CJ Abrams. There was the other one. The other.
Oh right, God, yeah,
high price spec.
I totally forget about him too. Jeez.
CJ Abrams. So that was the trio. The Gas trio was Kelenic for 35, Abrams for 25, and Julio Rodriguez at 30. So when you think about that initial auction that he had,
that's a crap ton of money.
Yeah, what are you doing, man?
And don't get me wrong, those were 3 of the top 10 prospects, pretty much universally
Sure,
in
I'm
the
sure
league.
that's what he was doing. That's in his mind, this is a dynasty league. I'm going to have a monster farm system at the very. But I just I don't want to get into these guys' mindset too much because I almost sidetrack a little bit. I had delusions of grandeur. I was going to try to go a Dylan Carlson, Kyle Tucker, Jared Kelenic outfield. That was like what I was going to build the Rockies around. Like this was like day one of the auction, and when all of those, or when Tucker and Kelenic got as expensive as they were getting, I still was thinking about it. I was like, well, if I average out, my 3 outfielders are $30 each. That's a $90 outfield, but they're studs. They're such studs, and they're young, and
yeah,
great, But I didn't think ahead to the depth factor and how big your roster is going to be, and how much money that does eat up to spend that much on 3 guys, especially guys that you don't know. This was Kyle Tucker was good, but he hadn't had his 2021 yet.
he hadn't really broken out. Yeah,
maybe the first round of redraft leagues like he is this year. And Carlson, as just a Cardinal fan and having seen him a little bit more than I just liked him. But what a terrible idea that would have been. Like looking back, that would have been looking like the Brewers, who, as we know, was done managing his team by early June. So. That's your console winning, and we're gonna go to what you actually look like now today, because a lot of these names have changed.
A little bit of turnover there, yeah.
I want to mention though like you seem to have quickly caught on to that versatility is big in this league. Like you said, having somebody to put in there. Look at all of the multi-positional eligibility of just about everybody in this lineup and on the bench for that matter. I mean, it's just all over the place. All of these guys, most of these guys play multiple positions. So
that helped then too.
And was that intentional on your part, or I mean, I have to assume so, right?
It was. I mean, honestly, some of those guys I had just pretty much inherited, and other ones I had to get. And honestly, I think a lot of those guys started playing more. And this is what I think is a key thing here, too. And you look at someone like Frank's team, and that would be for an NL Central discussion. Frank obviously really values versatility as well. You look at his current roster, and there's a ton of guys right now who, not even just the SP-RP combo, which could be really huge, but Frank has a lot of guys who, and the Cubs have a lot of guys who right now qualify at a lot of positions. As long as the rules stay the same, there's going to be a lot more guys who are not multi-position eligible now who will become multi-position eligible during the season. Like for example, look at Yoshi there. Look at
he looks like your team last year.
Right. Like there are a lot of those players that are already multi-position eligible because I think maybe I don't want to necessarily speak for him, but right. From a lot of moves he's made, from a lot of things we've seen, from what he's even talked about, especially with on the pitching side, that is helpful. But I think there's a lot of players who can get, like for example, Max Schrock, and I probably shouldn't even say this because he's on the waiver wire now. And I've been kind of keeping my eye on him.
He's a console. He's got a console ring.
So my roster. He's a free agent. My roster is full. If you saw it the last year, he was eligible at almost every single position, including relief pitcher, which was hilarious. Right now, he's only left field. He's only left field eligible. So that doesn't help you out a whole lot right now because your roster. If you had him on your roster, like, oh crap, at the beginning of the year, I can only put him in left field.
Right.
But there are some guys who we may all have right now who aren't multi-position eligible who could get multi-position eligibility by May, June, or July, and that can help you out a lot.
That's a great point.
Because right now, my team is not as flexible as I would like in that regard, but I'm hoping there's a couple guys there who could get, depending on if they are in the majors and if they get that, they're likely to play in more positions that will help, especially the outfield whenever you need left field, center field, right field.
You got Duggar. He was all 3 last year, and he dropped down to just center. But but you can maybe reliably say that he'll end up gaining some eligibility. But yeah, you did. Some of these guys did take a little bit of a hit. You still got Ahmed at center and short,
Mhm.
uh, which man, really, really am loving getting him as a late shortstop in redraft leagues this year,
Mhm.
especially as a sneaky steal source. He that guy was like a number one prospect for the Mets when he was coming up, and maybe the shine wore off a little bit. I kind of look at that as like a Kalanick situation. He came up and kind of sucked, and guys got off of him. But he actually looks like he's going to be a pretty good big league hitter. He can hit for average. He's got a little bit of pop. He runs. He's going to play, especially in Cleveland.
He's
I
still only
love him. Price.
still only 26. I'm sorry, Sam. I
Yeah,
know you've tried. Sam is. I know you've tried to trade for him about 7 times this offseason, and I've declined every single one. But it's but it is tricky though because I feel like he performed pretty well last year. Not well enough to say that he's a star, but also
sure.
not well enough to say he's totally out of the woods. Um, but well enough that I'm like, I need to give him a couple-year contract so that he can play shortstop. If they move him to the outfield, I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing shortstop every day for right now, and that he loses that eligibility next year. But he's a cheaper option to help me out for a little while.
Yeah, I love him. You pair him with you grabbed. So your auction was not very busy. Your year two auction not that busy. Landed $24 Jose Abreu, another big bat to pair with Arenado and Harper. Kyle Lewis for 13, which I know just the other day I think it was Duke, right, that is down on Kyle Lewis, but he was $40 in year one, so I price wise
He's
did a bit better. Tony Kemp for 11, I think is a sneaky good buy. Both because he's a little bit multi eligible, he's got second and left, and because he may very well be hitting leadoff for
mhm.
the A's and doing it all year long. So for $11, and he's not bad. I mean, this guy he wasn't a number one prospect. I think he came up with the Astros and
Mhm.
had some some regard, and now is finding his way into everyday at bats. And I think that was a sneaky nice buy for $11 in the auction.
That was that was a story I wanted to tell with I have Nick Gordon down there. He was my and he's still eligible at a ton of positions, which is nice. And
Yeah,
I don't have to
second
make it.
short, left center.
And he's out of options, so he's going to play. So he's going to be on the team, but he's not going to start anywhere. He's going to move around a lot. But I'm like, he's not going to start, so I need a second baseman. And I was really targeting Jeff McNeil in the auction because I know he had a down year, and he was also multi-position eligible, and I knew that. I thought, oh, maybe I could get him because I only had, I think it was $51 to spend, and not a lot of. I didn't have a lot of spaces open because I kept a lot of relief pitchers and I kept a lot of guys and a lot of money thanks to Harper and Arenado, so I didn't have a lot of money. So I thought, well, he could be someone I could see getting kind of cheap. So, but a bunch of mid-tier second basemen were on the board at the same time, and who I
Right.
wanted McNeil, and the backup for me was Nick Solak, also outfield eligible. I thought that would be good. So good old Frank is at the same time. Both McNeil and Solak were on the board at the same time, and at that point, I had already had Lewis and Abreu. So I'm like, I don't have a lot of money left here, and Frank is bidding on both. And I'm like, why does Frank need both of these guys? To the point where McNeil got up to 17, and I think I had $16 left or $17 left. And I'm like, well, I can't do that. And he's not worth it. And then Solak gets up to 15. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, and then he doesn't have either of them on his team right now. So he got them both and he traded them. He ended up winning both those guys and he traded both of them. So I was like, oh, but Kemp was my third option at that point, and I once he got to 11 and I felt pretty good about that, knowing that he was going to play. His projections are kind of low there for his at bats, and he may have had a little bit of a fluky year. He didn't really have a whole lot of heart. I think if you look at his his hard hit stats, they weren't up there.
Yeah,
But
he doesn't
I
tattoo
think
it really.
but he walks a lot and he can steal when he gets on base.
Yeah.
And now that Oakland's traded everybody, he's not I don't really think he's tradable in that realm. I think, and he's cheap. So I think they're going to keep him, and I think they're going to play him a
Yeah,
lot.
he's
Maybe
an Oakland kind of guy right now. They're going to wait for him to have a good year and then maybe
yeah.
deal him next year or whatever. But yeah, he fits that Oakland mold.
I think he's going to play a fair bit, and that will help at least to be able to play him at second or left for now. So that was why I kind of targeted him as like one of my secondary options, and I think it worked out after I got, because I really wasn't planning on getting Abreu either. I was hoping to get someone at first.
$24 Abreu is a real. I mean, Trax has him for 3.7 points a game. I mean, that's pretty upper tier. I mean, he's damn near a 600-point player. So
Abreu is tricky.
$24, that's great value.
Yeah, I really liked how that turned out. I feel you also always kind of feel like, okay, he came in the league older, obviously from Cuba. You always wonder, he won the MVP in the short season. When's the bottom going to fall out? Once you get, he's 35. He might be able to, maybe still play some DH once he's done playing first base, but he's going to be playing first base still there. So you wonder when the bottom's going to fall out, but I figure it turned out really well. This is what I guess when I kind of was thinking about, there was a lot of top tier guys, and you've already talked about this with some of the other pods you've done, but there's a lot of guys who we thought were going to go for so much money, whose money was down. And then there were a lot of lower tier or mid tier guys who were elevated so much that it was really interesting to see that in the auction. Like, I think Cabrian Hayes went for more money than Abreu. And don't get me wrong, as a Pirate fan, I love Cabrian Hayes, but offensively, and he's going to play every day. But to have Cabrian Hayes with the year he had, of course, and he was hurt, go for more money than Jose Abreu was like astonishing to me.
That was the other third baseman I think I was trying to think of. Maybe not Moncada, but Hayes. Yeah, Hayes and Bohm and Biggio and Moncada. You had this glut of third basemen, and like 3 or 4 of them were all getting fought over at about the same time. Yeah, Hayes, I think, was on that list.
Yes, and really Abreu was a fallback for me because I was battling Sam for Yelich, and Sam got Yelich for 26 or 27, and I couldn't go much more with the spots I needed to fill. So, but the fact that I got Abreu for 24, I was pretty ecstatic about, especially after losing out on Yelich. And I know you talked about he could be. Is Yelich done? Is he a severe undervalue? Is he there's a wide range for him there. So
flip a coin, I think, on him.
I didn't have a lot of money, but
a lot of different outcomes.
With those 3 guys, I was happy that I needed a couple of starters. I'm worried now that they said Lewis isn't going to be ready for opening day, even though he hasn't really done. I mean, he was out. He missed almost all of last year.
Yeah, he was out forever.
And Duggar right now, I mean, the Giants just signed Peterson. I can probably plug Duggar in there, but he's probably more of a platoon player. So I'm a little concerned about center field. And that's more of my thing. I have a lot of bench guys who are young. I picked up some guys in Fab, and there's not who could be position flexible, but they're not right now. Castro and Lopez both might not make the team. Berger might not make the team. Raleigh might not make the team. So I really like my starters, and I really like whenever the first Twins trade happened, I was geeked, and then when they got Sanchez, I was bummed. But I don't know who's going to make the team there out of my bench. So it just and what you'll talk about, it's hard to have depth. I like my starters hitting wise, but if people get hurt, if people don't make the team, it's gonna be tough.
That sounds about exactly like I think what Tony and I both said on the over under pod about the Brewers. Was like, man, the rotation looks really nice, the starting lineup looks really nice, and you can it's not a thing that's peculiar with your team or anything. You can say it pretty much about anybody. If 1 or 2 guys gets hurt, you've got some real potential problems there. And like with everybody else, yes, that is true with the Brewers. You didn't do a ton with pitching. Still have the same front 3 in Freeland, Mize, and Urias, which $23 Urias, another tremendous value. I have to imagine that you've had some inquiries about him.
Turn down a few. Turn down a few of those as well.
Because that guy for low 20s, you're looking real good, and Trax might even be a little low on 16.86 points per game. I mean, I don't know, what did he do last year? That still is, that's still upper tier. I mean,
I know
especially
he
for
went 18 and
the
3 or
dollar
something,
value.
but his peripherals weren't as good as some of the other guys who were like Burns and some of the guys who were really in the top tier for the Cy Young. But
I guess that's about where. He's got some 19s and 20s sprinkled in there, but then some single digits peppered. But he's a year wiser, a year better.
He's still only
25,
and I feel like he's been in the big leagues for about 13 years. But it's the thing is, he's been through a lot, and he had a lot of injury issues. So I understand wanting to be very careful with him. I felt like I had to sign him.
With the Dodgers, it's the Dodgers. That's kind of how they are. But I mean, eventually he's going to get cut loose, and cut loose for the Dodgers is probably about 175, 180 innings. And do we see that this year? Trax has him for 166. If he does do that, it's not going to be quite the Freddie Peralta, Robbie Ray value of last year. The single digit guys that come out of nowhere. But man, that's a really nice front three. I mean, even with one of them being Kyle Freeland, it's like we already talked about earlier, how he is going to take the ball every 50. He's got a rotation spot. We've seen him show flashes, and he's only $4.
That
Casey
was
Mize, Casey Mize, great value too. I think your front three holds up really well, but same thing as the lineup. If one of those guys, if the Dodgers want to limit Urias's innings and do one of their phantom, IL stints or whatever it might be, all of a sudden on a short week, you're hurting. If the team stays the way it is, but there's not too many guys that can't say that. If I lose my top starter for 2 weeks, I'm not going to be hurting. There's not too many guys that can say that. So I don't think I'm making a great point there.
Oh no, but I was very cognizant of that, especially seeing what some of the staffs that Jeff and Duke have put together. And I was like,
if anybody can say that, it's two guys that are in your division.
Exactly. And I'm thinking, and also what Frank didn't have this, but you look at his pitching staff now, and holy crap, he's got a good 5 or 6 to start with. So those are because and Lenny's lineup is really good for the Reds. I know we'll do a giant NL Central pod at some point, but look,
sure. Yeah, we will.
Frank got Anderson, Stroman, Syndergaard, Cobb, and Cobb. I mean, Cobb could be all over the place, but for $3, that's great. And
for $3, he's like a Freeland almost. Yeah.
And if Clevenger's healthy and his old self, and I think he's even got someone else down there, Trevor Williams. But I mean, those are 5 guys. Caleb Smith, I think, will be in the bullpen. But those are.
But he puts up. He's actually pretty good when you throw him in that reliever spot. He actually was pretty serviceable last year for what he was.
Oh yeah.
He's in there just kind of getting you. Not a whole lot of negatives. There's a big 17. He looked like he was a follower that day, but
probably
he's still an arm,
And Hearn's going to be starting too. At least to start.
I think Lewis Thorpe roster. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt like that, but I try to get this shit out before I forget about it, because I very easily lose this stuff. But I think Roster Resource might have Lewis Thorpe in the rotation. I think they did during the auction, because he was on my list of guys I might be able to grab for $1 that might have a rotation spot. And if he does, that's a sneaky nice pickup by Frank.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, he does have some arms there. It's kind of atypical from what you expect from the Cubs starting pitching.
Right. And also, I felt like I'm pretty sure he traded for most of those guys recently too. Yeah. Like he didn't have a whole lot of those guys other than the SPRP guys. But he made some moves. And so seeing all those 3 staffs, and I'm thinking I've got Urias and Mize and Freeland going into, and I had traded towards the end of the year for Bryce Wilson, knowing that he got the tricky thing for Bryce Wilson. Knowing as a Pirate fan, I knew he was out of options. Well, he got an extra option, which I don't like very much, but I feel like that they're probably going to, they traded for him for a reason and they're going to put him in the rotation. I feel like Wilson's going to start. So I at least have a fourth guy. And Tyler Alexander actually did surprisingly very well in a swingman role and ended up starting a lot of games at the end of the year for the Tigers.
Yes, he did.
He's currently their fifth starter, but they just signed Willie Peralta and Chase Anderson, the minors deals. And I think they're talking about looking at some of the other few guys that are left. So he could be a fifth starter. I'm really hoping he is a fifth starter to at least start the year. But he really helped me out a lot towards the end of last year.
Look at his last two starts were 18.5 and 16 points.
So
when he actually did make the start, yeah, he wasn't a follower or whatever, but they did throw him in there and make a start. He went quality both times. He's got another one, 19.5. Yeah.
He ended up starting a fair bit of games. And
yeah, so I felt surprisingly good.
So I traded for Wilson. I had Alexander last year, and I traded for Oviedo, knowing he was probably the 6 or 7 Cardinal starter. So I had kept those guys, and I felt I needed to get a few more guys. I was in on some of the guys in the auction and ended up losing them all. I was hoping to get Dane Dunning or Brady Singer, and I know you talked a lot about that with some of those guys with Steve, even Mitch Keller. A couple of those guys last week who I thought might be able to go for the low teens, high single digit salary, and they ended up going in the high teens. And then I needed guys to fill out my lineup more than I needed another starter like that. So I'm counting on Wilson and Alexander being 4 and 5 starters. And then I was able to get Yajure, who I'm pretty high on as a potential Pirates back end starter. I don't think he's going to start the year in the rotation, but I think he's going to get one of the first cracks because they have a lot of guys who really aren't in long-term options there, and he's young. So I feel like he's going to get some starts. Marquez was a former high prospect who did not play at all last year. He was hurt all year, and I have him in the keeper in another one of my leagues, so I really targeted him. He might be a reliever long run, but I feel like they're going to give him a shot at some point. And then I grabbed Neidert in Fab, knowing that he was like the 6 or 7 guy with the Marlins. So I
made some starts last year. Yeah.
So I felt, and he's still considered a prospect too. So I have a lot. I was happy with getting a lot of guys who I feel like could end up being in the rotation where I might be able to get, depending on who's up, who's hurt, who I can fill in to get 6 or 7 starts in most weeks, depending on what's going on, and potentially be long-term guys down the road. But they're not all guarantees either. So trying to fill that out, I was happy with, but it's still not necessarily a recipe for success. Like if Freeland gets hurt, if Urias gets hurt, and Alexander's in the bullpen, and Oviedo and Neidert and Yajure are on AAA, then that's not going to.
Well, if worst case scenarios are worst case scenarios.
Sure.
We can't lean on that, but you are, as we've said many times, you're in a very tough division. That was not an easy division to come into.
I know I'm realistic, feeling like I can't really keep up with the Pirates and the Cardinals this year. I maybe on the right week I might be able to get close to them, but I'm hoping my team is good enough that I can knock off some other teams, and that I can maybe get into the playoffs as a 6, 7, or 8 seed. Seeing how things are going, and seeing like when will Rodriguez be up? When will Colwyn come up? Will Abrams come up at some point?
Abrams, yeah, with the Tatis thing, maybe Abrams breaks camp. I mean. So people have said he's near ready. So
I feel like I'm happy with how things worked out. It wasn't really what I planned in with a 13 league. I don't think it can really be what you plan. Your plans are going to be your first plans are not going to come into fruition all that often. But I'm happy with how it's turned out. I feel like I'm realistic with my chances. I'm not going to be a top tier team, but I'm hoping that I set myself up to be a competitor for the playoffs, but also be decent down the road for now. But it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of
Yeah,
it's going to be fun within the division and within the whole league just to see the moves people make day to day, week to week, who's going to be there for
I
the
can't
short
wait,
term.
man. I can't wait. It feels like year one, like all over again, almost for me. Like the excitement of year one was a little different because none of us knew each other yet, really. I mean, some of these guys, go way back or whatever, but I didn't know anybody.
Oh
So
yeah,
now I know all the owners a little bit better. Some of the moves, you kind of see down the road a little bit what the idea might be, and then they totally pull a Frank on you. So you just don't know, man. I think year two is going to be great. I'm not envious of the teams in the Central. Then again, I don't think there is a division that's easy. It's not to say like,
no.
oh, the Central's so hard, everything else is super, super easy. I don't think there's anybody that looks like they're a runaway division champion or anything. This guy's going to dominate, the whatever. I don't see it yet.
And
So.
I know things can change, but I especially after getting the guys who left the league for one reason or another, outside of Toronto, I think every other team that left was because of inactivity. And of course, things can change. Personal situations can come up. But I think now that there's a few of those cases, teams are going to struggle. Guys are going to get hurt. Teams are going to be bad. That's the way it goes. But I think there's a lot more certifiable, I guess, dedication to, oh, okay, crap, my team, I don't necessarily want to sell on May 1st, but maybe I can do this or do that. It's probably going to be a lot more. I'm imagining there'll be a lot more parity throughout the year.
Yeah, the curve is going to get meatier instead of the extremes get wider. Yeah, I think you're right about that for sure.
And keeping the contracts. That was last year was the Wild West, and now that there's contracts and guys signed to 5 years, 3 years, whatever it may be. It's
still seeing a ton of trades in year two though. Like we've already seen a ton of more trades than I thought we would see, even after contracts have been signed. So, I that's part of the thing to love about this league. You do not know what to expect from you. You'll have a team that is very quiet on the Discord. All of a sudden, make a deal. Sometimes the Yankees will come out of nowhere and make a trade. You just don't know. You really don't. With 30 other guys, man. I love your first 30-teamer, my first 30-teamer. I wouldn't trade it. I really wouldn't. I love this league.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree. It's I wouldn't have even thought of I had started writing up like a constitution to do a 30-team league a couple years ago. Even before the pandemic, and during it, I feel like maybe that would have been a good time to actually do more of it. But did I know? I guess kids kind of got in the way of that. But it's something that I kind of dreamed of, but I didn't really know that there was a league out there like this.
Right?
Or
yeah. Like there's other guys out there like me that don't necessarily just do NFBC. Like I wanted the competition and stuff, but I didn't want that. NFBC is so money driven. It's. Like this league, it would be great to win. The winnings can be substantial for the money you put in, but like I think Mark has said and Gary has said, like it's the fun of the league. That's what has me waking up every day and wanting to go run and check the Discord like first thing in the morning. What are these other baseball nerds saying about what's going on?
I 12 months ago, I would have never expected something like that. Like the camaraderie that everyone has already for the most part too. It's, in NFBC, I did some of those several years ago. You don't know anybody. It's you're drafting. You don't make any moves depending on the kind of league you're in, and that's it. And it's just amazing, and that's credit to Duke and the executive committee and everyone who's joined this league to say, it feels like it's really joined, or it's really created like this culture. It sounds so like
we've got a little commune. I'm not a communist by any means, but we do have, everybody brings something to the table, man. Even like I said, the guys that aren't super active on the Discord, they are still very active with their teams. They're not going to. You're not going to go. I think we've pretty much the guys that you would go 2 weeks, without hearing anything if you wanted to throw them a trade offer or something on the Discord. Those guys didn't make the cut, for
Right.
one reason or another. Now we don't necessarily, like you said, personal stuff happens, shit happens. Some had excuses, some didn't, but we replaced them with guys like you and Steve and Josh, and I think and Gary. Like I think every one of you guys has been a net positive. I mean,
well, thank you.
I'm very happy with you guys as new owners, man.
I think that's the hardest thing to pull off. So many other leagues, even it's tricky because I'm in several other leagues, and a lot of them were with friends from either high school or college, or we're joined the league with one or two friends who then were friends with everybody else. There's things like that. But like you said, for other than a few cases, nobody in this league knew each other, and in 12, 14, 16 months, look what it's like. I mean, it's, how many of us are on Discord every day with, in some cases, people, in most cases, we've only seen on a computer screen. Some of that could be pandemic related and everything else, but it's just kind of amazing to me how there's such a relationship that everybody has that goes beyond. We're like, okay, we didn't know who the hell each other were before this, but now we're like, hey, we're, it almost feels like you are the big leagues without being the big leagues.
Yeah, a little bit. Like the winter meetings kind of felt like the winter meetings. Like you have, I'm sure, like in the hotel or whatever in Vegas, you have like these certain little groups of GMs that kind of go hang out at the bar together. These are the guys that are on the Discord until 1 a.m. At night, and then you have the other GMs that go to breakfast together. These are the guys that wake up early and they're on the Discord at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m.
throwing their Wordles and their Wardles and their.
Yeah, I love it, man. I wanted to ask, are you doing ABL 4?
I'm not in it. I'm not in anything else. Not other. I've got in a couple best ball leagues. Is that the NL only one?
ABL 4 is going to be. It's a 4-year reset.
Oh right, okay.
Kind of, yeah. So it's like Dynasty, but not. There's limited keepers after that. During the whole time, and then after that 4th year. But yeah, it's just another branch. Duke's got roots just spreading out all over the place, man. Yeah,
it's a great network. It's a great idea, and I part of me is like I would like to join a bunch more leagues, but I know I'm already in a few others with different groups of friends and things like that, and I admit, and even a lot of things now I feel like. In some other leagues, I feel bad. I'm one of the ones who I'm like, okay, I can't really do this live draft now because I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I'm trying to deal with. I don't want to put all that on my wife. Oh, by the way, try to put the 2 kids to bed, and I'm just going to hang out and. I'm
going to draft, yeah.
So it's a little bit trickier in that regard, and that's even it's things change. A lot of things change. Like I didn't watch a second of college basketball this year. I know Tony's a big college basketball guy, and 10 years ago would have never thought that.
Right? But, yeah, right. That's impossible. No way. Yeah.
I can't fill out a bracket now because I can't do it with any knowledge because I'm like, wait, right. I used to know these things, and baseball has always been my first love. The only sport I was ever pretend good at to play at. So I still keep up with baseball, football, like the primary things, but I just haven't had as much time. But baseball will always kind of persist for that for me.
That's fair though. You don't want to the AFL leagues, like armchair or not AFL because that's football, but armchair network leagues. They are not ones where you want to spread yourself too thin and feel like you're not going to have enough time to dedicate, to all of your teams or whatever. And if I had kids, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be near. I mean, I'm in almost all of these things, but I work from home and I have a very relaxed schedule. I might be about to get more constricted, but for the most part, pretty relaxed. Like I don't have actual kids to worry about. I just have
work kids,
adult children.
Every bit is challenging sometimes.
Yeah, he might not be a kid, but there's still a good chance that he'll stick a fork in the fucking light socket, I think.
That is true.
So I kind of do have to watch. I'll be doing a pod and then my power's going to die and I'm just going to go, damn it.
Okay, well, we'll try it next time.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, anyway, I've kept you for an hour and a quarter here in the middle of the week.
Time does fly when you're having fun, though. Doesn't
it does, man. Yeah, when you're just sitting here talking baseball and shit, all of a sudden you look up and it's like, wow, it's been well over an hour. So, yeah, like you said, I do want to do. I want to maybe have multiple guys on if I can from each division. That might be a good idea, might not be a great idea. Sometimes like there's lag in people's input and stuff, so you got a lot of guys cutting each other off and shit. But we'll try to figure it out. This isn't going to be the only time you're ever on here, but for today, for now, this has been getting to know the Brewers, getting to know Zach, and thanks a lot, man.
Oh, thank you, Alan. Yeah, happy to be on. Happy to do it again.
Season. Yeah, definitely, man. We'll do it. Good luck to both of us. I don't mean just you.
Same, man. I hope that's the thing. We have to also do a pot. We're focusing so much on our team so many of the times. We have to like pull back the curtain. And I
didn't want to be too like narcissistic about it, but I was thinking my dad's going to be here, so I was thinking about saying on the Discord, if anybody wants to do like a ask me shit about the Rockies or whatever, I can have my dad kind of Stone Phillips or take your news guy, but I can have my dad maybe interview me if anybody's interested in that kind of thing. Maybe
I say go for it. Do it.
Here, so yeah, that's not a bad idea, Zach. I think that's a great idea.
Set it up. I'm sure Dad will be happy to help.
All right, buddy.
Especially after you trashed him on the last pod, right?
Oh yeah. He was randomly watching. How embarrassing! Whoops. Oh shit! All right, man. Well, this was fun.
Definitely.
I got some other crap to do, but I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna go, and good luck to us both, and thanks again, man.
Sounds good.
This has been Brewers Zach.
Have a good one.